Welcome to this meeting where we're going to look at the paper you wrote. So the paper had 4 questions, and the first question required you to describe the waterfall model. Majority of you knew what we are supposed to describe, but a good number of you did not really describe. What we mean by that? You see, when you are asked to describe, you are expected to write in prose form. That is, write complete paragraphs, proper paragraphs. What you have here, these are not proper paragraphs. This is a list. The model script, what you have is a list. The list enables your examiner to compare major points with the points in your prose. So do not write as presented in the model script. The model script is summarized to aid the examiner to very quickly locate the key points that candidates are expected to present. On your part, when we ask you to describe, for instance, the waterfall model, we are expecting you to write a paragraph on this, a paragraph on that, a paragraph on that, a paragraph on that, and a paragraph on that. Each paragraph, based on your background, you know that a proper paragraph should have a topic sentence, a main body, and a closing sentence. I will not say more on that. So a lot of you, what you did was you listed, you did a bullet point, or you attempted what looked like prose, but when one read that, it was actually a list. Proper prose has proper prose has conjunctive sentences, phrases that enable you to glue together ideas that you are dealing with. We are not going to illustrate that here. You have done a lot of reading, and we urge you to go and look at various textbooks and so on and see how proper prose is done. You see, class, because many of you listed, you risked losing a lot of marks. What do we mean by that? We asked you to describe. You chose to list. We could have cancelled everything and given you a 0 out of 10 for failing to observe instructions. We were lenient enough to give you some marks and deduct some, but next time, in the next test and the exam, when you fail follow instructions, we will simply cross that piece of writing and say the candidate has failed to follow instructions. Therefore, I urge you to go and work on your paragraph construction skills. When you do paragraphs, it is okay for you to do subheadings there, like that. That is fine. You can put a subheading and you write a paragraph underneath. You do a subheading, a paragraph underneath, and so on and so forth. Whatever you do, ensure that When you are asked to describe, explain, discuss, and so on, you do proper paragraphs. Only when you're asked to state, only when you're asked to list, should you do bullet points. Okay. We are not going to go over the waterfall model in depth, because many of you know what is involved here. Yes, there are so many things that you can talk about under the waterfall model, but when you consider the amount of time available in a test or exam, you have to be judicious in terms of the amount of detail you provide. Under the analysis stage, show us that you are aware that establishing the problem being solved is crucial, and also show us that you are aware that one has to decide what what the user interface is going to be in terms of input and output. When it comes to design, you know that this is the stage where you now prepare your algorithm, which can be presented in terms of pseudocode, flowchart, and many other ways. But in this course, it's those two that we have chosen. Your design is a presentation of instructions that are meant to solve the problem that you identified. Implementation, you are writing executable code in whatever language you have chosen, and so on. Testing, you are checking whether the software does what you want or what you intended earlier. Many of you said testing, this is the stage where the program is tested, and so on and so forth. You cannot use the word you're trying to explain in the explanation. Excuse me. Let us say you are trying to define what it means to test, or rather, you are trying to define the word test. You cannot use the word test in the definition again. That is circular reasoning. Replace the word test by synonyms. Examine, evaluate, check, assess. So, okay. Maintenance, you refine your software, do upgrades, among other things. I'm being very casual here because we have discussed this at length in the past, and there are other videos that have been done on this. When you write your essays, avoid writing the way you speak. Avoid being informal, avoid being casual. Write in a formal way. Okay. When I explain, sometimes I am quite informal, and sometimes the words I use can be colloquial. I do so to aid your comprehension. I do not expect you to present your material that way. We're going to see later on what I mean by that. Okay, explain a difference between logical and syntax errors, and give one example of each. A lot of you got this one right, but you listed instead of explaining. You were supposed to write a paragraph here. We ignored the fact that you had not followed instructions. If you wrote if you did this one, this and that, two, this and that, what you did there was listing. If you used a bullet point, what you did there was listing. And if your sentences were disjointed, that was a list, even though it was presented as though it was a paragraph. We want you to work on your writing skills. And in the next test and the exam, we are going to penalize failure to write proper paragraphs. Okay, we want you to write well because you are remarkable scholars. You are amazing scholars, wonderful human beings. And we want you to put forward your best foot. Okay. So I'm not going to go into this because you have a lot of examples and we have dealt with this quite a lot. Explain two advantages and two disadvantages of using pirated software. You know what pirated software is. That is software that you have not been permitted by the owner to use, the developer to use, right? Let us say, for argument's sake, you are using Microsoft Word, a cracked version of Microsoft Word. You have not bought the license for that. What you're using is cracked software. What you're using is pirated software. What you have done is you have stolen. When you pirate, you steal. So the question now is, can you give two advantages for using pirated software or stolen software? Can you give two disadvantages? One may wonder, why are we asking you this? You as intellectuals, you as engineers, in as much as you develop technical know-how, you should be very, very much keen on ethical issues. What you are doing now, is it ethically right? You see, you have morality and you have ethics. Morality and ethics are very different things. What may be moral may not be ethical. Let's not go into the details of that. Suffice to say, many people use morality to guide a society in terms of what is wrong and what is right. But you're going to find that when we look at ethics, that is above morality. Okay, let's give an example. Let us say you live in a land where part of part of what is regarded as right and a way to appease the ancestral spirits is to chop off one ear, right? And it is regarded as very, very moral to have one ear gone. If you have two ears, you are disobedient, you are uncooperative, and you do not respect the great spirits. Let us say you lived in a land like that. You having two ears would be regarded immoral in that system of, in that religious system. But you see, when we come to ethics, you having your ears, there is no ethical standard that has been breached. You have the right to choose. You are free to choose. You are an entity on your own. If others induce you to chop off your ear, you have chosen. Now you see, because you're so eager to ensure that your family, your children and others join this sect, or rather this community, and become part of it. You decide to pick children who are 4 years, 5 years, and so on, and chop off their ears. You are satisfying a moral requirement for that community, but you are also breaching an ethical standard. You have chosen to modify permanently a part of another person's body. You might argue to say they are minors and therefore they cannot, they have no position to give consent. Okay, that's fine. You may have a spouse, members of the family who are above 18, then you compel them to have their ears chopped off. What you have done by violating their will, by violating their individuality, their autonomy, you have breached some ethical principles. Let us put this another way. You are a leader, or let us say you are a medical doctor, and a patient comes to you with a serious medical condition. You attend to the patient, then you go out in the community and begin to tell other people about this other person, what the person is suffering. You have violated some ethical principles there, and you have also violated many other things. It is not immoral that you're discussing this person's medical issues. Maybe you are using that as an example to caution others so that they can behave properly. But what you have done is you have violated this person's right to privacy, to keep his health status a private matter. You have violated this person. Anyway, let us not go into the subject of ethics and morality. It is an important one. Ethics tends to be transcendent. Morals tend to be subjective in many cases, but both stick to what is regarded as good, as right, as wrong, as bad, and so on, in colloquial terms, in loose terms, right? In strict terms. Okay. Away from that, one of the advantages, you see, excuse me, when you look at advantages and disadvantages, it depends on where you choose to stand. You can decide to say, I'm going to look at advantages from the perspective of you, the person, the one who has chosen to steal software. You know that, number one, you're not going to spend a lot getting that software. Maybe the bundles that you need, and maybe a much, much lower amount. So it's a lot cheaper for you, right? You also know that because you have, you may also access source code for that package, and you may be able to reuse that source code, thereby cutting down on your development time, right? Assuming you are using this pirated software to do software development. It's also possible to look at advantages from the perspective of the vendor, the developer of this software you are pirating. That, excuse me, you may deliberately allow a number of people to steal your software as a marketing ploy. Okay? What do we mean by that? You see, class. Let us say you are selling fritters, and you've been selling fritters at 2 or 1 quarter, and you find that you have a market saturation, but there are other markets that have not been explored, and you want to explore those other markets. Now, they have never tested your fritters before, and you want them hooked on your fritters. What do? Okay. You can go and offer those fritters free to those other people. And when your first customers, your initial customers, learn that what they paid for is, excuse me, something they had to pay for earlier is being offered free elsewhere, you make them feel stupid. They'll feel foolish, and you may lose your customer base. So what you want to do is find a ploy that preserves a ploy or a gimmick, whatever it is, whatever you call it, that will allow you to maintain your current customers and at the same time attract more. What do? You can arrange for someone to come and break into your bakery and steal some of your fritters. This is not ethical. We are speaking hypothetically, right? And when those people have some of your fritters, those fritters make their way elsewhere, and that community is supplied. And you also have some PR stunt where you get to talk about how you have been robbed and so on and so forth. That does happen quite a lot. People robbing themselves. That's extreme. What you can do is you can decide to run competitions there, road shows and whatnot, and the prizes are these expensive fritters and whatnot, right? So you dish the fritters out free without making the other set of people feel foolish. So you as a vendor or you as a developer of software, you may actually know how many people across the world have pirated your software. You decide not to crack down on them because you want adoption. You want them, it's almost as though you have allowed them to rob you. Okay? It's almost as though you are robbing yourself. But at the same time, you write reports to say, so many people are pirating and this is not okay and whatnot, but you know to say it is good for your business because you have allowed them to use a pirated version that may have limited features, right? And you work hard and produce one that has remarkable features that your loyal customer base can, access and feel, okay, the investment they're making in paying for the software is worth it. Alternatively, you can also release student versions with limited features, right? But in many cases, you will know how many people are using the full version, pirated, as you let them, and perhaps you crack down on them when they have become rich. If they make a lot of money using your software, then you can sue them. If they are not making a lot of money out of your software and whatnot, you know that you suing them will not earn you quite a lot. Just let them be. Let them be your marketers. They are marketing your product for you, right? Free of cost. Anyway, so a number of you did mention such an advantage, which was fascinating. One would say your mind worked in very interesting ways. Okay. So you see, class, disadvantages. You know that there are copyright protection, laws, and in some countries it's criminal, right? And in many cases, the copyright owner can sue you and extract lots and lots of money out of you. You see, if you are found to be using pirated software and, let's say you're a big company, the reputational damage may be something else. And other people, other companies may not be willing to work with you because you are not ethical, right? So then you also find that some of these sites where you download pirated software, they have malware, right? And so on. Okay, let's go to question 2. So question 2, many of you handled this one okay, fairly okay. But you know that when you are dealing with simultaneous equations, it's a good idea to do a matrix formulation, especially if you're going to use MATLAB. And we expect you to demonstrate that you can do that matrix formulation. So I'll very quickly walk you through this. So your problem statement, input, your output, and you have initialization of the resistors and also the voltage source. Then this is the system matrix. I do not need to remind you how to do nodal analysis. You know how to do that quite well. And this is the key equation that allows you to compute the nodal voltages. Many of you got that right. And these are the nodal voltages. This here is the implementation. It's pretty short. And these are the results from testing. Because this system you are dealing with is a small system, we expect you to provide us these values. You can use that calculator, Casio FX 991 EX or Casio FX 991 EX. You can use these calculators to find these values. By now, you should know how to do matrix multiplication, matrix addition using those calculators. We do not expect you to work this out from scratch. Then the final part is your maintenance. Many of you got this particularly okay. You see, class, we saw a number of you present calculations. This is not an electric circuits course. We do not need those calculations. We will not penalize you for presenting those calculations, but do not expect any scores for those calculations. They are not part of the expected solution. The expected solution involves what I've seen here. Okay, a good number of you got this one right. So we are going to take a break. See you after the break.